So this one is, it looks like we're doing the same thing we were doing all along, right? It looks like it's not that bad. And it really isn't. But this is the first time we're going to do something a little bit trickier than we have been doing, right? Up until now, our f primes and our g primes have been really easy to figure out. Like, we knew exactly what they were basically from some formulas, right? So g prime here was 1 over x. But this is the first g prime where we need to be a little bit careful with it. So let's start our formula. So we want f prime g plus f g prime, right? So f prime is going to be 6x squared. G, I'm going to leave on its own, ln of 2x plus 1, plus, and then f will have 2x cubed. But before I do this g prime, let's take a look at this. Do we have a formula just for the ln of 2x plus 1? And we actually don't. We have a formula for the ln of x, which is really close, right? So what do we need to do about this ln of 2x plus 1? Well, we actually need to kind of come over here and say, well, if I had a function that was the ln of 2x plus 1, how would I take the derivative of it? And so you're actually going to have to use a chain rule, if you remember that. All right. So there's an outer function and an inner function here. This is my inner function, is the 2x plus 1. So to take the, I'm doing kind of a little sidebar right now, right? So the derivative of this is going to be 1 over 2x plus 1, and then it's a chain rule, right? So I have to multiply it by the derivative of what's inside, so that 2x plus 1. And then I will get the answer of 2 over 2x plus 1. Now, some of you might have been able to do that in your heads, but you have to be really careful. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't do too hard of a derivative in your head. There's no reason to. There's lots of paper, right? So just use as much as you need. And so what we figured out over here, this is what g prime is equal to, right? So g prime is equal to 2 over 2x plus 1. So I'm going to write that out over here. I use a chain rule to figure it out. And I'm just going to go ahead and write it without parentheses, not do a massive amount of simplifying. But I'll have 6x squared times the ln of 2x plus 1 plus 4x cubed over 2x plus 1. And finally, one more one where it's really tough to kind of figure out that g prime. So I'm going to identify f and g here, just like I have before, and I'm going to try to put it into that formula, right? So we want to put it into f prime g plus f g prime, and f prime is going to be 6x, right? I bring down that 2, and then I turn the 2 into a 1, and g I'm just going to leave on its own, 8x to the 5th so far. Now f I can copy down, that's a 3x squared, but this g prime here, that's another tough one. So let me do a sidebar. So g prime is equal to d over dx of 8x to the 5th. So what's my inner function here? This is tough. It's review from the chain rule, right? So the inner function is actually x to the 5th. And so go back to the chain rule videos if you're confused about this, but it's going to be the ln of 8 times 8x to the 5th. So I'm just doing the derivative of my outer function here, and now I need to multiply by the derivative of the inner function. So here I've already taken the derivative, right? And here I still have a derivative left to do, right? So my final answer for g prime will be the ln of 8 times 8x to the 5th times, now what's this derivative? The derivative of x to the 5th is 5x to the 4th. So this is the g prime I need to use over here. And so kind of write that in blanks now. I didn't leave myself enough space. But so if I actually want to write this whole thing out, I would have 6x 8x to the 5th plus 3x squared times this, times g prime, right? So 3x squared times ln of 8, 8x to the 5th times 5x to the 4th. And I can do a little bit of simplifying, right? What are some things that I could pull out of each term? I could pull out the 8x to the 5th. So I'd have 8 to the x to the 5th power. I could pull an x out of each term, and I could actually pull a 3 out of each term, right? So I'd have 3x times 8x to the 5th, and then here I'll be left with 2. Here, what am I going to be left with? I'm going to be left with x to the 5th. I'm going to be left with 5x to the 5th. I'll be left with this 5, this x to the 4th. I'll be left with an x here. Because remember, I've pulled an x out. And then I will be multiplying this by the ln of 8. So if you're a little bit confused about the steps I just took, take a minute to verify that if you multiply this by this term and this term, that you'll get this thing above. Right? But big idea with these more advanced examples, pay attention to what your f and your g are, and don't be scared to go off on the side and figure out what g prime or f prime is if you can't do it in one step. Here's one where you definitely should not be thinking to do it in one step.